All right, what's going on, everybody out there? Shouts out to the Conscious Approach community. JV
You
Wins and Dogon SS are here once again. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, checking out our videos. We appreciate the
yeah.
engagement and support for the channel as we continue to crank out this logical content. Thank you for joining us along for the ride. Uh, Major shouts out and appreciation to everybody who has been hitting that subscribe button because you thought that the content that you consumed was worth your time enough for you to perhaps consume more. So you clicking on that subscribe link is of invaluable measure to us, and we certainly appreciate it. And to anyone who has not done so, or you regularly watch the videos, or if this is your first time checking out these videos, this is kind of the game that we like to kick each and every week, man. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We certainly appreciate it. We basically do this for fun. And the point is that we are just trying to grow the community and just carve out our own little niche here on the internet and do things a little differently than what I personally think is going on for the most part, all throughout content creation and YouTube and such. So, once again, thanks to everybody who's been subscribing to the channel, and thanks in advance to anybody who will subscribe at some point in the future. Now, with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. The first thing that we are going to talk about is Tyler Perry, who is clapping back at his critics for suggesting that all of his movies are the same. So apparently, this is an ongoing narrative that Tyler Perry has been having to deal with for some time now. If you are familiar with Tyler Perry's work, much of his movies center around themes of like hope and despair, trauma, tragedy, single parenting, going to prison, fighting for custody of your kids, so on and so forth. Tyler Perry kind of majors in black trauma entertainment. I don't think that
Yes.
that's unfair. I don't think that that's very unfair to say. But apparently people have been going at him on the internet, and elsewhere, sort of saying, hey, man, you need to get up out that box. Your stuff all looks the same. And Tyler Perry's not here for it. He's like, hey, this is the mission that I have been called for. So
Oh,
I don't have time to waste hearing people talk to me about how all my stuff looks the same. If you focus on outside noise, you'll never achieve what you've been called upon to do. And what is the platform upon which he expressed these views? Keke Palmer's show, no less. So before we get into this, we'll go ahead and provide a little context. This here says Tyler Perry claps back at critics who claim his movies are all the same. Tyler Perry has heard it all. He knows what his critics have to say about his films. He's also aware of how successful his particular style of filmmaking is. Perry is estimated to have a net worth of $1 billion, and his films have grossed over $660 million at the worldwide box office. It's this pedigree that Perry brings to the table and why he felt comfortable dismissing criticisms of his work. He recently sat down for an interview with Keke Palmer, though, and decided to address some of these criticisms head on. Palmer alluded to those who claim Tyler Perry makes the same kind of film over and over again. More specifically, a film in which a black woman is put in a distressing situation. Perry didn't shy away from the remark and instead explained the way he approaches his artistic process. First and foremost, he said, he ignored what detractors had to say. You got to drown all that out, he told Palmer. If you let somebody talk you out of a place that God has put you in, you're going to find yourself in hell. The filmmaker then stated that he has confidence in his work and his methodology. I know what I'm doing is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, he added. So here is that brief exchange on Keke Palmer's show in which Tyler Perry is clapping back at the haters who think that he makes the same kind of movie over and over again.
I love that you never allowed that criticism to stop you from being able to have your authentic voice as an artist, because it does get really difficult.
Yeah, but what? No. You got to drown all of that out, because if you let somebody talk you out of a place that God has put you in, you are going to find yourself in hell. I know for a fact that what I'm doing is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, because for everyone who is a critic, I have thousands of used to be emails from people saying, this changed my life. Oh my God, you know me. Oh my God, you saw me. How did you know this about my life, my family? So that is what is important. We're talking a large portion of my fans who are disenfranchised, who cannot get in the Volvo and go to therapy on the weekend. So you've got this highbrow Negro who is all up in the air with his nose up looking at everything. And then you got people like where I come from and me who are grinders, who really know what it's like, whose mothers and who were caregivers for white kids and were maids and housekeepers and all of these beauticians. That don't discount these people and say that their story don't matter. Who are you to be able to say which Black story is important or should be told? Get out of here with that bullshit.
Yes. And that is what we come up against. It's like you said, the respectability politics that we're always pushing up against, which at the end of the day, what we are facing and what we are oppressed again, it doesn't matter how well you speak. It doesn't matter how well you walk. It doesn't matter how well you do anything. If somebody's going to not like you, they're going to not like you, period. Right. So holding ourselves to these unbelievable standards that stop us from being able to tell our true stories and connect to one another, it only, like you said, puts us in a personal hell and doesn't allow us to really be all that we're meant to be because we're too busy trying to fit into somebody else's idea.
Listen, what I always say is don't worry about being in somebody's box because when you die, they're going to put you in one. So you may as well just live your life outside of a box.
Ooh.
Whatever, bro.
All right. There you go.
Godly.
The article goes on to say Tyler Perry doesn't bash people who criticize his work. Rather, he focuses on the people who enjoy what he makes. And then it just continues on there. Tyler Perry and Keke Palmer have known each other for decades. The latter told People magazine that Perry offered to help with her skin condition when she was just 14 years old, and so on and so forth between their personal relationship. So, Tyler Perry's like, hey, man, don't let people put you into a box because when you die, they're going to put you in one anyway. And he just doesn't listen to the criticism because, hey, man, this is what I am supposed to do. This is my purpose. What are your thoughts on Tyler Perry's comments, clapping back at those who criticize his work for always being the same or seeming like it's always the same?
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not surprised that he doesn't listen to critics because all of his movies come out the same. So here's my thing, man. When people have critiques on things, just the essence of critique, at least in my opinion, is to critically analyze whatever somebody's got going on. And, my critiques are more or less the constructive variety. I think Tyler Perry is an extremely talented dude. Well, hey, you don't get in his position without being a talented person. But at the same time, what got him there was, I guess it was still the trauma stuff. But once you've cornered that market, I think it's time for you to expand and grow. One of the things that I like, one of the better tenets that I like in psychology is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And one thing with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the bottom, the base level, the part that everybody needs is security, safety, and all these other good things. And one thing that Tyler Perry movies does is it hangs out in the lower bottom part of Maslow's. And if there was a talented man like himself who has so much intellect and all these little bars that he wants to give us, taking you off your path of what God did, so now you're going to hell, or all this box rhetoric. So if this guy is so wise, then he should also be wise enough to take this constructive criticism and actually hit the top tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is self-actualization. And within self-actualization, that's the part where you have, I don't want to say cured, but you've worked with your base traumas and you have elevated yourself to a level to where now you can actually give back to the community. And when you give back to the community, you're not giving them trauma so they can swim in. You're giving them ways to get out of that trauma. The only thing now he can say that his movies are trying to get people out of trauma because, the women are going through something and they meet some nice guy with a bad hairpiece. So he can say that's what it's doing. But in actuality, I think the movies spend way too much time dwelling in the cesspool of Black trauma. I've seen critiques online where people were saying the same thing as me, like, hey, bro, you can improve. And then I would go in the comment section and I would see people literally talking about, no, this is based in reality. This is reality movies. I'm like, what reality are we talking about? Now, granted, some of these people are living this. I saw that movie that he just came out with Tia, what's that? Tia Mowry's ex-husband or whatever. Got the name of that. Something in the Black. Divorce in the Black. So I saw that. I saw, guys, don't judge me. All right. So as I'm sitting there watching it, for market research, I'm trying to make sure that, hey, is this the same thing? Sure enough, it's the same thing. Just crazy psychopathic dude that she's dealing with. Now, are there crazy psychopathic dudes all the time? Hell, I can look up an article right now. Something crazy happened yesterday. So I'm not saying that these are wild phenomena. These are things that don't happen. My thing is, why are you dwelling there? So yeah, hella talented dude. I'll give him that. When the plays first came out, I was laughing. Even at the Medea stuff, I thought it was quality stuff at that time. But he never grew, in my opinion. And at that point, it became more than him just capturing reality. It became agenda based, in my opinion. And if you always swim in this pool of victimhood, swim in this pool of trauma, swim in this pool of whatever else he's got in these movies, then that ultimately becomes your reality. So I'm not a fan of it. I would tell him that tighten up, but of course he won't, because I understand, at least personally, I think that he's in this position for good reason, to disseminate this type of material to the masses of our people. But I got more to say. But what are your thoughts, sir, on Sir Tyler Perry saying that, hey, man, my movies aren't, they are what they are. Are you agreeing with that? Do you feel like he should improve? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's his opinion, and it is his work. So if he feels as though he is doing what his mission is, what it was preordained for him to be doing, I'm not going to take that away from the guy. However, I, like you, am of the mindset that if you are truly a shepherd for your community, then at some point you have a responsibility to, through your art, portray different realities and different orientations in terms of life setup, so that you can show that very same community all of the various different pathways and vibrations that they can be on. That's my personal critique. It's funny you bring up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because I've mentioned this on this channel before. One of the books that changed my life was when I read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the tenets of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in a lot of ways mirror Maslow's hierarchy of needs, from the standpoint that you start at a baseline level of recognizing certain paradigms that you have been living in. And as you gradually, go up the ladder, and as you increase in terms of the habits that make you highly productive, by the time you've reached that last point, you are at a point where you are able to embrace the notion of interdependence. And through interdependence, you are able to work with others in order to be the best version of yourself. And you also understand the importance of the fact that you don't have to mire in the various paradigms that have ruled you, that have sort of ruled your life from the point that you were sort of a child and you started to understand your place in the world. You have the power to shift the paradigm so that you can think differently about things. So in saying all of that, I hear where he is coming from, and he is entitled to do whatever he wants with his body of work. But to say that you were called upon to do those things, to me, is a bit iffy, because if you think of yourself as someone who is a shepherd for his community, then you have also a responsibility to present your art in multiple facets, so that you can give your community different representations in order to orient how they perceive their reality on a day-to-day basis. One of the reasons why I've always appreciated the show Insecure, and I think I said this before too, like, on the surface, that show is not for me. Like, I'm not in the target demographic for that show. I feel, based on the direction and the writing of that show was a show that was primarily tailor-made for Black women. But nevertheless, I often found myself a supporter for and watching the show Insecure. Insecure was a show. I think Issa Rae created it. She was also the main writer. She directed a lot of the episodes. She was the driving creative force behind that show. It was a show that came on HBO every Sunday. And the reason why I came to appreciate that show, even though I don't necessarily consider myself to be in the target demographic, was because it was a show that was created by a black person, had black people writing it, had black people directing it, and had black people as the majority of the cast. And it wasn't a show that from one episode to the next was mired in trauma the entire time. These were people who were living in Los Angeles, and they were just doing what humans do, which is they were trying to have successful relationships. They're trying to climb the career ladder and have successful careers. They were trying to live life the best they can. How to be the best version of myself, how not to be a bad person, how not to mistreat people. And in the event that I do mistreat people, how can I reconcile some of these conflicting emotions so that I can grow from these situations and become better? And along the way, there was a lot of humor and raunchiness. There was some sex stuff. The show to me just depicted everyday life for upwardly mobile black people in modern day America, which in my opinion is something that I don't see enough when it comes to the portrayal of black people on a day-to-day basis when it comes to entertainment. What I see the vast majority of the time is either Tyler Perry-like movies or shows like Power and Raising Kanan and the other Power shows, or BMF or The Shy. That's what I see the majority of the time. So my whole thing is, let's do a better job of creating an overall tapestry of the existence of not just black people, but all disenfranchised people. Because on a day-to-day basis, not all disenfranchised people are running around languishing in their trauma. They're trying to figure out the best ways to get up out of it. Correct. And I think just as palpable of a movie that sends a message as some of this Tyler Perry stuff is, it's also just as palpable to see black people in outer space or to see black people on in fantasy shows. You know, right now I'm watching House of the Dragon on HBO, and there's a bunch of like black characters in that show, and I appreciate that. It's a fantasy show. It's a fantasy political show about dragons and magic, but there's a bunch of black people running around in the show. I appreciate that. You know, put black people in outer space, put black people in corporate boardrooms. You know, whether they're doing shiesty stuff or not, I think that some of these filmmakers and creators who think of themselves, fancy themselves as, I am doing my part to accurately portray the existence of black people and otherwise disenfranchised people through my art, because that's the contribution that I am giving to the world. I think that those people have the same responsibility or obligation to create a more well-rounded overall tapestry. So he has the opinion that he has, and he can stick to it if he wants. I would just say to any other artists out there, you can go the other way. Give us, Ryan Coogler, the guy who directed Black Panther. He doesn't do trauma central. His stuff isn't trauma all the time, right? So we just need more people like that to create a balance to this particular equation. And right now, in my opinion, I would suggest that there is a dearth of said balance. I'm not here to litigate Tyler Perry. He wants to keep making trauma stuff, then he can keep making trauma stuff. But it does not change the fact that, in my opinion, most of his stuff does deal with trauma. And for him to suggest that people who are criticizing him are attempting to put him in a box does not really go so far as to acknowledge the fact that he makes the same kind of content, whereas he's boxing himself.
Exactly.
So which box is which? Because to me, you box yourself in because you make the same stuff all the time. Yes. So I guess we're just dealing with a bunch of boxes, because you box yourself in and you say your critics are also trying to box you in. So which is it is a question that I would pose to him. But my overall point is creating a more well-rounded tapestry for the representation of quote unquote disenfranchised people through art, because it doesn't always have to be about trauma all the time.
Hey man, well said. And I was going to touch on that too because yeah, bro, like he's fashioned his own box. He's typecasted himself, and he just does the same thing over and over. It's on repeat. And so also we gotta also see what he means, at least for me personally, when he's talking about his mission and doing what God wants him to do and all this other stuff. So a lot of his material is black church centric. And so since it's black church centric, it's dealing with how the black church deals with things. One of my biggest issues that I have with the black church in America is the amount of money that's being generated every Sunday that the community never sees. One of the bigger pet peeves that I have, if I am in a urban neighborhood and I'm seeing crime here, crime there, but church over here on this corner, church over here on this corner, and I'm still seeing a crime all over the place. I know there's enough money being donated to these churches in this area to help clean this up, but the church doesn't give back. And when you're dealing with these churches and these preachers and these pastors or whatever, it is for them just a comeuppance. One thing that Tyler Perry does is he's using that same kind of energy just in the box office, where he's generating tides, if you will, from the people who are just church going. I want to give my money. There's not really any other black directors or whatever that's making black religious stuff all the time. And so even though his stuff may vary or veer off of religion per se, there's always a religious undertone in some of his things where there's God, this, whatever that. And so I'm saying all that stuff to say is that if he believes that he is doing God's work by constantly promoting trauma, I would then ask, well, what God is it? Because I would also say that God, whatever, in this context would want people to self-improve and pull themselves up. And nothing that I see from him, nothing that I see about the people that he hangs around or anything that he does is, in my opinion, uplifting our community. So people could say what they want. Oh, he's got a black studio. He's hiring black people. Or, hey, man, I think we covered it here or not. We grazed on it. But,
Right.
He's looking at venturing into AI. So AI can just do everything, So I'm pretty sure that'll be less black employees, and I'm pretty sure, half his scripts come out AI generated anyway. Only thing I got to do is go to Open AI and say, hey, write me a Tyler Perry script. It knows exactly what I'm talking about. So they're going to have the guy with the bad hair piece, mad abusive, all right, DV, SA, whatever he's doing. And well-to-do black woman, bending over backwards to make him happy. And it's going to be the same thing over and over and over again. I just literally explained the divorce and the black thing. And I'm trying to figure out what the in the black was. Then I'm sitting here watching it. And then Megan Good talking about something. Yeah, I want blah, blah, blah in the black. And I was like, oh, so y'all named it in the black for this one little thing right here. Like, I don't even know what in the black means. But all I saw was a crazy black man going hammer sauce, really trying to do everything in his power to be a stereotypical black man. Angry, aggressive, out of his mind. So Tyler Perry, what he does, in my opinion, is sickening. I feel as though what he does is a detriment to our community. I don't feel as though he is an advocate for us. If I'm starting a reservation and, I'm bringing all of our best and our brightest, I'm leaving him out. And I feel as though that what he does is he works against us. And I feel as though he works against anybody that chooses to watch his movies, whether black, white, or anybody in between. So yeah, I can keep going on about this dude, but I don't look at entertainment as just entertainment. All right. And I've said this here, I don't know how many times, but these things are, whenever you're watching something, last thing I'll say, seriously, when people talk about predictive programming and they say, oh, something's going on out there and, it was in a movie 3 years ago, they predicted it. No, they didn't predict it. They needed your manifestation for it to happen. And so in order for, whenever you're watching a piece of content, Your subconscious mind can't tell the truth of whether it's true or not. All it's doing is recording is trauma, trauma, abuse, abuse, abuse. And so whether you like it or not, or whether you know it or not, you may be attracting these types of things. Maybe not the direct, the same exact thing, but you're attracting that. And so whenever you're choosing to sit here and watch these movies by Tyler Perry and condition your subconscious mind to think that that's how people behave, then ultimately this becomes your reality. So I'm pretty sure all the people that love all the Tyler Perry movies can sit here and resonate with it because, well, they live a trauma-based life. I'm not saying my life ain't based in trauma. I just choose not to dwell in it. So his movies, in my opinion, are a detriment to the community. They are putting us in a bad position. And the Boondocks episode that they had where he was on BET and all that stuff, to me, that was a perfect representation of what he is. And he never liked Boondocks for that either. He wanted to sue and all kinds of stuff. But honestly, it called him out for the pariah that he is. So I'm not buying this dude. I feel as though he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, here to push agendas, and I'm not for it. So he can sit here and use God and the devil all he wants. I can do that too. And I believe I'm doing God's work. And I believe I'm here to call him out for his BS. And if he try to put me in a box thinking I'm some type of conspiracy theorist, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna flip that.
You're just the uppity Negro. That's what
that's right.
Yeah,
I'm the
that's his
uppity Negro.
video. You're the uppity Negro because you're barely criticizing his work.
Yeah, my bad. My bad. Let me get my uppity ass off out of here with this. But yeah, man. So he can kick rocks. I'm pretty sure he's gonna say something else in the future, and I got more scolding things for him. But yeah, man, I can't stand it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a parallel between a conversation like this and a conversation like the music. You'll hear a lot of defenders on the music who will chastise a person like me who's always criticizing the hip hop industry for popularizing some of the more negative aspects of life and reality. And one of the key reasons behind why it's unreasonable for me to criticize it is because, hey, these artists are merely giving you a glimpse into what things are like. They're putting real life into music. So it's okay, therefore, that the popularization of this music centers around only one or two specific themes all the time, because they are nevertheless giving you reality. And it posits, therefore, that the existence of the group of people who make this music as the representatives from their community are suggesting that this is their reality. Therefore, to be black is to be always constantly in trauma. Or therefore to be any one of these disenfranchised groups or communities, or someone who comes from a hard up type living, is to be synonymous with trauma. And I patently disagree with that. I don't think that that's true. I think that you can always shift your paradigm and you don't have to languish in it. But I guess it's just different perspectives, and I'll have to respectfully disagree with his point of view on that. It's funny too, because like he does participate in movies and other forms of art that don't specifically always have to do with black trauma. The interesting thing about it is, in every single last one of those movies, he's not the director. So Tyler Perry's been in, he was in one of the more recent Star Treks. Like when they brought Star Trek back, he was in that. He was in Gone Girl. He was in Alex Cross. So he's been in movies where that's not the theme, but he's also not been the director of those movies. It seems as though when he has full control and he's grabbed the reins, this is what he chooses to do. And like I said before, if you are someone who is a shepherd for your people, I think you also have a responsibility to paint a more holistic representation of what life could be like, instead of constantly languishing in what you believe life is all the time. And it's one of the reasons, again, why I appreciate shows like Insecure, because these were middle class to upper middle class people who were dating, they were getting married, they were having children, they had corporate jobs, they were living in LA, they were trying to do their thing and just living life, which is what humans are always striving to do. And one might surmise that that's not a black show. And to a person who would say that, I would retort with, that's the problem, that you think that that's not a black show.
Yeah. Hey, 100, man. Hey, so you know, we'll see what happens with all of this stuff, man. But hey, sorry guys, I'm not a Tyler Perry fan, so I don't won't be. So I will continue to dunk on this man, windmills if possible, and yeah, man, if he brings it in the paint, I'm blocking his stuff. So yeah, man, not a fan of this dude, but he's gonna do what he does, and I would just ask anybody that is a fan of this guy is to, you know, really honestly just take a step back and evaluate what he's putting in the minds of everybody. And I don't think it's cool. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm not rocking with him on this. I think that that's kind of short-sighted.
Yeah, Keke Palmer
And
too, man.
he has the talent to do it too. Like he needs to write a sci-fi script or something. Like, you know, make a movie where people are time traveling and the main characters are black and they're time traveling. I don't know.
But you
Like,
know it's gonna end up happening.
Do something more expansive with the talent that God has given you. So
but you know it's gonna end up happening. If they're out of space and they're doing some galactic stuff, just the Borg is just going to be the people doing the essay then, you know what I'm saying, or the domestic violence there. So he's just gonna take the trauma to outer space.
That would be very disappointing. That would be very disappointing. If Tyler Perry wrote Game of Thrones, everybody would just be in a state of trauma anyway. Still, Lord of the Rings, the Tyler Perry version, it's domestic abuse and infidelity and people cheating and child custody hearings. Yeah. I guess I'm gonna ride on my dragon to my custody hearing. Whatever. All right. Get out of here, Tyler.
Yeah, get out of here.